Biological diversity is the resource upon which individuals, community members, nations, and future generations all depend. Biodiversity is the link between every organism, in which all species have their specific role. Together, we, plants and animals, form part of the planet's ecosystem. When discussing the loss of biodiversity in recent years, we must address three essential issues. First and foremost, the issue of habitat loss and fragmentation. Secondly, we must acknowledge the effects pollution and climate change play on the environment. And finally, the global issue of illegal wildlife trade and extinction. Upon making these observations, we must then ask ourselves, what are state and non-state actors doing about these issues? We will begin this report by defining the phrase loss of biodiversity, as well as outlining some of the key background information that led to these major issues. It is important to note that although the study of biodiversity is multidisciplinary, science claims the core of the discipline. Within the field of science, biodiversity loss can be defined as the extinction of a species, both plant and animal worldwide, and also the local reduction or loss of a species within a certain habitat. Ironically, learning how to alter the environment helped humans in their early struggle for survival. But the rate at which people now alter the natural world has accelerated exponentially and is becoming a serious threat to our survival. When discussing how the loss of habitat and fragmentation plays a role in the loss of biodiversity, it may be most beneficial to look at case studies. Figures from the 1980s show that Africa south of the Sahara has lost an average of 65% of its original wildlife habitat, while tropical Asia has lost an average of 67%. Deforestation rates are alarming as well. Africa's worst case is Côte d'Ivoire, where 6.5% of the country's remaining forests disappear every year. Traditionally, forests of northern Canada and Siberia were long ignored by the lumber industry because they were relatively inaccessible, but now too they are suffering mass clear-cuts. Clear-cutting and other forms of habitat destruction has resulted from things like animal agriculture, the production of other raw and natural materials, such as cocoa and the chocolate-making process, to the production of IKEA furniture that almost all of us own a piece of. In sum, all of these things can be combined into one essential factor: economics and the money that can be made from destroying the environment. These factors also play a major role in fragmentation, the process by which large habitats get divided into smaller, more isolated pieces. The impact of pollution on biodiversity is undeniable. And nowhere is this pollution more clear than in our Earth's oceans. As of 2017, it's estimated that there is about 6.3 billion tons of trash in our oceans today. But how did this happen? Where did this trash come from? And who allowed this to continue? Countries like China, Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam are all responsible for dumping plastic into the ocean, more plastic than the rest of the world combined. But like many air and water pollutants, this plastic problem doesn't just affect Asian countries. It affects the entire world. Habitat reduction and pollutants play a role in our next issue, climate change. Carbon dioxide emissions are 50 times higher in high-income countries than low-income ones. For the first time in recorded history, CO2 emissions passed 400 parts per million. Carbon monoxide, CFCs, and HFCs all contribute to greenhouse gas emissions and subsequently play a role in destroying the ozone layer. Along with carbon monoxide and chlorofluorocarbons, methane from animal agriculture is another huge contributor to this loss in ozone reduction. And climate change. The final aspect I would like to address is the illegal wildlife trade that happens worldwide and the extinction of animal species. Money is the driving economic factor in this illegal industry. Due to its economic influence and the desire to own exotic animals, it's estimated that up to 350 million animals are illegally bought and sold on the black market each year. These animals are purchased for private home zoos, entertainment, and even medicine. It's estimated there are only 3,000 tigers left in the world, 5,000 black rhinos, and even giraffe populations have decreased 40% in the last 3 decades, leading many to believe only 100,000 are left. Hundreds of animals sit on the endangered species list because their populations continue to decrease, and hundreds of more have already gone extinct. But what's being done about the loss of habitat, pollution, and extinction? Intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations and environmental agencies like the World Wildlife Fund all are working to put a stop to these issues. Treaties like the Kyoto and Montreal Protocol, brought forth by the United Nations, sought to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce the hole in the ozone layer. The UN also likes to focus on sustainability and regional initiatives to these issues. Environmental agencies are the number one actors that help to promote and educate about these issues. If we continue destruction of the environment at this rate, plants, animals, habitats, and entire ecosystems may be destroyed forever. If we all work to change our behavior now, it might not be too late.